Okay, preparing the metal to make the ring, starting with the ring shank. I've got a chunk of metal here I'm milling out. I want it 2 mils too wide, 1.9 playing it safe, 1.9 wide, and then about one, I'm just looking at the gap in my calipers. It's a small stone, so quite delicate is best. Maybe 1.5, 1.6, 1.9 wide, 1.6 deep. That'll be plenty, and then we can just file off what we don't need. I've mentioned this loads of times on my channel, but I've got to keep saying it for people that are new to my videos. When you're milling a bit of metal with a bit of length, don't go across it like that, with the flame going across it. You'll do the anneal, but there's more chance of doing a patchy anneal, like one little spot might not be as annealed as the bit next to it, so you are better off doing this technique of going along the piece. So not this way, go along the piece like that. And then you're using the full potential of the flame, you're not wasting any heat. Less likely to do a patchy anneal job. It'll just warm up quicker, it's just more efficient with the heat and the gas and the time. A better way to work. There you go, done. Cherry red is annealed in silver. Don't chuck it in the water to quenching it, let it cool down slowly. You can speed up a little bit by just putting on something metal. Anyway, yeah, using mills. I don't know which ones that go in, I don't know. So what I do is I close them right up, find that one's going to go straight in, that one is not. So I just push it, just give it a bit of a push against it and open it up until it goes through. Then tighten up again a little bit. That way I know I'm not going to really overly crush it when it goes through. A little bit more. There you go. So I go through once, comes out the other side, rotate it 90 degrees, and then go back through. So you can just go forwards or backwards if you want, but the problem is when you're coming back, you're still crushing the metal a little bit, and you're basically hardening the metal with no benefit. We want to reduce the dimensions of it, so that act hardens the metal, but if you're hardening it without reducing the dimensions, you're not really going anywhere. So you might as well get the most benefit out of your time and effort annealing by rotating it and then coming back through. There we go. Okay, I've milled it out a bit more. Sorry, I can't speak today, caught a cold. Milled it out a bit more so it's thinner and longer. I'm approaching where I've got to change my technique because that's been going through the mills in those sort of faceted holes, yeah? Got that flat section on the corners. Don't want that, I want sharp corners because I want to end up with a shank that's got sharp corners at the dimensions I want. So it's about 2.1 now, so I think I'm gonna start going through the flats, holding it in my pliers. I'll show you what I'm on about. So they've got that flat on the corner, yeah? Don't want that flat on my metal. So same technique as before, doesn't go in, just open it up until it goes through, tighten up a little bit more. Parallel pliers, hold that in. You want to hold those, make sure your parallel pliers are not twisting this way or this way. You want to really definitely keep this flat, keep it straight so you get a nice square. Because if you make a mistake, you end up with metal that's not square, like kind of parallelogram. Almost impossible to get rid of that without going back to these and then reducing it again, and by the time you've straightened it out, it's way thinner than what you wanted it to be. So anyway, yeah, be careful, make sure it goes in straight. So I just hold that about a centimetre sticking out the end, just push that against the metal. Those could possibly damage that, so you're not really forcing it in there. You just want that to grip the metal enough where you're just holding those pliers and the rollers, the mills, just pull it out, just let it slide out from the pliers. There you go, it's just sliding out now. So I'm not squeezing the metal, I'm not pushing the pliers, just letting it pull out, and I'll let go for the last little bit. Rotate 90 degrees. I don't adjust the mills or anything, I just go through. It will probably be a bit harder to pull it through because that metal is squashed, yeah, squashed it that way, so it's gone wider. So the mills are actually crushing it a bit harder when you go through the second time. Again, pliers are straight. That's squared off, and the corners are a bit sharper now. So the corners are a bit sharper now. flattened it, squared it off. They're a bit sharper, but not totally sharp. I'm going to go through again, so it's totally sharp. So yeah, just measuring it. Look, I've taken 0.05 off it. So I'm going to go through again a bit more. That metal does feel hard, but there's a bit of, I can go through once more, I think, before I anneal it again. So I've just been through the mills again, just checking it out. It's a little bit sharper, it's a little bit longer, but still needs a bit more. I said 1.6, didn't I? 1.9. So I've got 1.95. I'm basically trying to think ahead, because you squash it down that way, it goes wider. So I reckon I can go to 1.8. 1.8. Squash it down an extra bit. That might be bigger. 1.9. I'm going to go 1.9. 1.85 square. 1.85 square. And then I've got a bit of room to play with, because remember, it's not just the dimensions through the mills. After the ring's turned up, you've got plier marks. I might need filing. It's going to need sandpaper in, all the buff grades, and then polishing as well. It all takes a little bit off the surface. So you need to think ahead to make sure you've got enough for that. So play it safe. You're walking a tightrope, or whatever the saying is, because if you go too far, if it goes too thin, you basically got to start again. You can't fatten it up, can you? So you can't go backwards through the mills and make it fatter again. Yeah, you literally have to start again. You can either melt that up or start again with a new bit of metal. It's a problem. You wasted time. When you're an employed jeweller, you get told off for that. Me, if I did something that if I needed 2 attempts to do something, I should have known better. Like this is sort of, you should be learning all this in your apprenticeship. I would have been told off a bit, but we all have different experiences, depends who you work for, the personality of your boss and stuff, what kind of business it is. I was under more pressure to do things nicely, so I think my old boss would have preferred I took my time and finished something accurately and really well. Other people you work for might just be really strict on time, might just be really strict on using the absolute minimum amount of metal. Like if you milled up that long, that's too long really. I might need to cut off that much. I could literally cut off like 15 mil of that and still have plenty to make a ring. Some people you work for might see you working with that and then tell you off for being wasteful metal. We all have different experiences, so I just tell you what my experience was. Anyway, I'm shut up. I'll get on with this. .82 went a bit far. So now we're going through the D section holes. It's just D on top, flat on the bottom. Let's close that up. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Right, you can totally over crush things on them. Don't think it's some sort of half power thing, or I don't know if you're expecting something different. No, it's still really powerful. You can still over crush things. I use my pliers as well, just to make sure it goes in there straight. Once you've got a bit of experience, I can just do that. I haven't actually physically got to really bend the metal to tell it's hard. I just sort of pinch it in my fingers. I can tell it's hard just by literally just how it feels without bending it. It's strange. So look, width back up to 1.95. Oh. .95 on the width, so that increased 1 point. Should I go down a bit more? The smallest amount, because remember, plier marks and the buff papers and stuff, you lose dimensions. Really gently, that's going in there. Hardly anything. There you go. This is finished now. 1.95, 1.66. So correct. So now we've got a shank wire completed, ready to move on. Choose a ring size, a finger size. I'm going to go for L.5 M, which is about, on the UK scale, that's about size 5.5 to 6 on the US scale. Yeah, but don't go too, I mean, we've got to tap the side of the shank, so the size will likely change a little bit. But get it to the size you want. It's like, after tapping, it's probably going to get bigger, so we have to cut a little bit out. So get it to the size you want it. To do that, from my wire, before I use the stick, I start the end off. Keep the wire straight, yeah? Don't be careful not to start turning it that way, but also twisting it, going sort of banana in. Try to keep everything in line. This is where you put little flats around the outside, which will need buffing off, and then you lose a few hundredths of a mil dimensions. What did I say? I'm going to go for like L1/2. What I do is I start it off and then I turn it with my fingers. Sometimes, this shank's quite thin, so it's possible. When you've got a thicker bit of wire, not possible to do this, it's just too strong. So I'm holding it at the correct finger size and then keeping it straight, working around it. And if you bang into the other end, good. That means you've got it straight. I mean, we kind of need it to scissor off, but don't try that while turning it around. Try and keep it straight. The scissoring section, again, you don't want it to go banana-y. You don't want to bend it sort of from the sides, and then when you bend it back, not paying attention. I just try and bend it from a small little distance directly opposite the join, and that way I can bend it back again without it getting all twisted up. And also, to help myself keep it straight, I use parallel pliers. So just from, see that? Just tweak it just enough, like bend it the minimum, so the ends are not in alignment anymore. Now, it's very hard. This metal is from previously melted up bits, so it hardens up really quick, so I literally want to anneal that again before I start tweaking it, because it's rock hard. I never shy away from annealing it, because you might be reluctant sometimes, because it feels like you're spending time doing something that isn't complete in the ring, but when metal's softer, it's easier to work with. You'll do a better job, rather than putting all your strength into tweaking things. So yeah, it does take a bit of time, but it's time well spent, because it makes completing the ring easier. I've tightened up the curvature a little bit, just tweaking it with my fingers so it sits about the right size, L1/2-ish. I'm not too strict on it at the moment. I'm going to cut through it now. Just want to say a couple of things about that. The end where I initially grabbed it with my half-round pliers, it took the most strength to start to bend it. So you can see a big flat on the outside, and then also just the distance of my pliers is always quite straight, that last little bit. So I never start my ring right from the very end. I'm always cutting it back a little bit. I can literally just see that section is straight, so I'll probably cut it from there, because after that the curvature is a bit nicer. And just go straight across there and there. I'll cut through it and talk about doing that as well. I always mention jewellers work differently, so find what works for you. A little example of that is cutting through a coil of metal like that. Some jewellers will happily just hold it together and just cut through both at the same time. I've caused a few problems doing that in the past, so I always just concentrate on one rather than cutting down through both at the same time. I hold the parallel pliers, use parallel pliers, hold it really close to the join, and I just concentrate on one, obviously the one closest to me. Get through that first. And then go through the second one. So it's nice and round, makes the next step easier, and then also it's only just out of alignment, tweaked it the minimum, that makes this step easy. I know exactly where it's twisted from, right opposite the join. So again with the parallel pliers, just where they were, just tweak it back. Tweak it back, and then if I can get it sitting straight, I reckon if I put that down on the metal block, it should be relatively flat. Hang on. No edits, let's have a look, That's not that good actually. Last time I did that, it was really good. This is a little bit, that's not bad actually. I should have put it on that way, it's more stable. But yeah, if you've got to do this basically is to test how straight your ring is, because obviously if it's rocking about loads, like it was quite badly that side, if it's really banana in, you know it's not flat. Because looking at it in my hand, it looks quite good. Put it on the metal block, it's a little bit iffy, look. So again on the ring stick, just so you know where you are, mine was probably M. It stops there, but if I push that up, it will be M. It's fine. What I decided to do is solder it up now, and then tap it on the ring stick, tap it on the metal block, get it flat, all the perfectly round and stuff, and then use that as like the perfect shape base to then start tapping it on its side to stretch the top of the shank up. So let's solder that joint up. Bench peg slot, tweezers, just hold it in there. Let's go. Right, still got more to talk about. Silver especially is a problem, or can be a problem. It's been forced circular, it was slightly out of alignment, it's been forced that way and that way. I've got the ends sitting really nicely together, nice tight join and stuff. So that metal's under a bit of stress. It's sitting there like that, but it's kind of stressed and tight. The nature of silver, as you probably know, it conducts heat. The whole thing has to sort of conduct and get really warm, like sort of there to there has to be sort of half soldering temperature, and then around there obviously has to get right up to soldering temperature. The problem with that is where you're heating it up, it's annealing, it's going soft, and you might soften it there, but where this is all still really tense, the metal can start doing strange things. It can start twisting about a little bit, really small amounts, but it might move. So before you actually put the solder on and flood it in, just have a look at the join, make sure it hasn't tweaked itself out of alignment. Silver's prone to it. Doesn't always happen, but it has happened to me in the past, so watch out for that. So even warming it up might happen. I've seen joins open up, I've seen them sort of go left, right a little bit. Professional jewellers, yeah, we may appear to work quickly, like be able to complete a lot of work in one day, and it's because it's the way we work, not really the speed we work. Like turning this up, I turned it up circular, so if that was really out of shape, I'd now have to put it on the stick and do a lot of hitting. Don't have to do that, very minimal work. The solder, the join was really tight, and then I used a minimum amount of solder. It lined up really nicely. So very little work. I haven't got to really do any filing at all on the inside of this ring. I'll put it on the ring stick, tap it once, and just go straight to a paper whizzer. Because it's lined up nicely as well, the sides need very little work. Yeah, so I just want to point that out. If you work neatly and think ahead, you make the whole process quicker and neater and easier to complete to a higher quality. I did make it all wonky though, didn't I? So it's going to be tapping. Something like that. I'd be tempted to get my draw plate and just put it over the top. Make sure there's no like deep engraving on the side you're putting on top. Tappa, tappa, tappa. Put it on the ring stick. That's the join flat, and what I'm doing is I'm looking that way, and then if I can see a gap under the ring, it means it needs tapping down. But yes, this hammer will put little flats around the outside. But that's why I made it with an extra bit of dimensions, so I can just buff it back and not worry about it too much. Okay, I think that's good now. Okay, so the join, we're hitting it over the join. I get it close, put it flat on the block, get it close to the edge so my hammer has got a bit of an angle, ability to sort of tilt at that angle and hit it without obviously hitting that. Just give it a tap. Get it straight. You can use the joint as like a marker for the centre. You're going to be hitting it the same amount both sides. Mind your fingers obviously. Do a certain amount and then turn it over. Exactly the same again. Have a look at what you're doing, making sure you're doing the same amount both sides. So I just put a bit of a flat on the sides. There's more work to be done. Look. Still, you can go quite sharp with it. Just try and do what I do next, try and do it without my hands getting in the way. I pick it up, look, I've got the ring in my fingers. I'm tilting it at an angle, I'm sort of touching it down like that. And now I'm hitting it, just trying to stretch. Getting that end even sharper, putting a bigger flat on there. Again, do a bit one side, a bit the next side. My metal block has this rounded corner I find useful, rather than hitting my hammer on the edge of a sharp corner. And it's just got a bit of that motion going on as well. Have a look down on it, see how sharp it's going. Okay, I've got to actually do it now, holding it at an angle that's comfortable for me, so this is just what I look like when I'm doing it. Hitting my fingers and everything. A bit sharper. Looking down on it, making sure I'm hitting it the same amount both sides. Okay, I think that's enough now. Raised it up quite a lot. It's not quite circular anymore, it's gone flat under where I was hammering it. But I look at that angle quite a lot. I want to see how sharp it's going. And it should be thicker on the inside than on the top. Look, I'm not completely flattening it, that's why I'm trying to hold it at that angle and tap it like that. Because I want to retain the thickness underneath, that's where a lot of the strength comes from. Just give you some measurements just so you know what I've got. So my shank is over 1.6 still. I basically tapped it until the tallest part, 2.6. And that top edge is 0.77. Yeah, 0.8 call it. But you want to retain some thickness on the inside. 1.46, look. Just did a load of work. Well, I thought I'd record it and wasn't. Basically, I was saying, yeah, put the ring, next step is to put the ring on your ring stick, have a look at it. Very likely will be not round anymore. Look down at it from the side. If you see any gaps, that's where it needs flattening from. Mine wasn't too bad, but just where I was hammering it, it was lifted up a bit. So yeah, just went round it, give it a bit of a tap. And also I was talking about, notice how the size will be bigger. Hitting a ring on its side on a metal block can increase the size. Might not be immediately obvious that can happen, but it does. So note how big your ring is now. I mean, I keep talking about L1/2 and stuff. I'm not making this ring it's going to be sold or anything like that, but I sort of have to mention it because if you're actually really making one for a customer, you have to know about getting the finger size right. And I think it's important because, like say if I want to size that down now, if I want to get it down to size L1/2, I'll cut it out, I'll cut through my original join and then join it back up there. Because once the collet's on there and it's finished and it's the right size, it's just higher quality if there's no joins around the back of the shank. If you finished it and then you've got a join back there, it's a bit like a repaired ring, isn't it? It's a bit like a second-hand ring that's been sized and then sort of polished up nicely to look new again. I feel like a new ring shouldn't have a join around the back of the shank. So that's why I kind of work with that in mind. So get it round, double check it on your block, and then we're just going to file it gently. Just concentrating on the bit we've hammered, first of all. It's tapering off to a point, yeah, the top is sharp. make sure you're doing the same angle both sides, and that sharp edge is going right down the middle of the ring. Sorry, I didn't realise I didn't move the camera back. Yeah, that sharp edge, have a look at it down the side, make sure that sharp edge is right down the middle, because if you file more one side than the other, it's going to be wonky. There's a bit of a flat across the top. Not go into like an absolute blade, don't want it sharp, because if you do that you're making the ring weaker as well. You want to keep some strength in it. The side is going to be all hammer marks, so I'm going to just touch that on the file as well. I'm sure I said right at the start of this video, when I was choosing the dimensions of this ring, if I make it and I don't like it, I can always file it down. And because the flat around the side is quite a big flat, it really exaggerates the thickness of it. It's 1.65 mil. It's not really that thick. It's sort of normal really for a lot of rings. But it looks massive. The stone we're putting on is a little tiddler, so you can help that stone not be so dwarfed by the metalwork around it by making it thinner. So I'm going to thin off the shank to something more suitable. And guess what? I have a specific way to do that as well. So first of all, just put a line where my join is. Just the tallest part of that. You haven't got to do this super accurately, but go down the middle, directly opposite. In the middle of them, so you've got four points, and then the bottom half, just go in between them again. Again, don't worry too much about accuracy, we'll get it kind of good. And what these black marks do is they help you file it and get the thickness even all the way around. They're just little marker points to put your digital calipers on. So obviously you can go on the black dot or in between the two. When you're checking the thickness after you've made adjustments, you want it an even thickness all the way around. You got to do it more carefully than you might imagine filing it. Very easy to go more one spot than the next spot. Hold the ring, sort of lock it on your bench peg where it's not going to flap about, and then file across it, putting a flat on it. Just go straight down. I know that's D-section shank, don't worry about that now. Just get a flat all the way around it. Just do a bit. Try and push down the same and move the file the same, but just rotate the ring as you do that. And that helps you get a kind of even job. And you can literally see what you're doing as you rotate it. It should look kind of the same. Not all different angles or different, more flats. So at a quick glance I can see that's where I've got to stop. Do actually need to file up a bit further, but that's easy just to blend it in up to that curve, so I sort of go halfway. So I'm expecting to have to do a little bit more. 1.58, move it around, 1.52. See how different it is? 1.5 says right on the bottom. Just move it a little bit. It's all over the place really. What I do is get it down to what you sort of need it to be, and then I will change my technique to turn in the ring and then getting it smooth all the way around, because that's kind of just lots of flats. Next step is to get your file around the side and then move nicely around there. I've got to do it here. And then with nice sort of curved motion, you even it off. I'm going to go around this properly. I'm just sort of demonstrating the method at the moment, but I do actually need to do this properly afterwards. So this, just aim to get it really flat as well. Don't worry about that curve yet. We'll do that after. So yeah, what you do is you measure it, you find a little thick spot, and then you just file over it carefully, get it nice and round again, check it, and when it's all nice and neat and uniform, it should look really good to your bare eyes. Like, you're never going to get it to 1/100th of a mil perfect, but you can get it 0.05 should be a decent target. Like say you can get 1.5, 1.55, like 1.53, just sort of around that ballpark should be acceptable. You can get it, I know, speaking for myself, I can get it more accurate than that, but I think your eyes will start to see it. what would it be? It'd be like 1/20th of a mil. Doesn't sound like a lot, but your eyes will see it. If that's sounding a bit daunting or a bit tiresome or a bit troublesome for you, you just can't be bothered to work that accurately. you can relax a little bit in the fact that after you've put a rounded section back on it again, especially after buffing and polishing, it does hide a lot of the tricks, but I don't think that's a good excuse to just go through it and think it's not important. You should practice working accurately at all times. Okay, so I've been filing loads off this ring. It just looks so heavy compared to that stone, I couldn't resist filing it right down. So this is good practice. Perhaps if I made this full instructional guide again, I'd mill it more to make it more suitable for this small stone. But I don't regret anything. I think it's good to be able to show you the shank filing technique because it comes in useful all the time. So I just want to show you my measurements around the side. 22, 21, 23, 22, 23, 24, 21, 22. Yeah, I'm going to start, well, basically, I'm happy with that now. I'm going to start reducing the width. So again, I rotate it. I don't just put my file on the side and file down. I sort of work with that edge. I sort of push in more weight on this side of the file and then rotate the ring. That's sort of where my mind is and what the tool's doing. And you have to work from both sides, remember, because you've got that sharp edge going in the center. You can't just reduce it all from one side. Should we round it off? I'm just going to buff the sides. Yeah, let's round it off now. Let's just finish it, get it a bit closer to the finish before we start doing the collet for the stone. Yeah, just a buff stick job, do the sides. So a couple of ways I do this. Probably my preferred way is just to look at it from the side, get your file at an angle, and just take the corner off and go all the way around it, and then do the same amount all the way to the other side, and then turn it around, and then go back again. And then you sort of got a flat on top, and then a flat that side. And you sort of go in between them, and then you can just sort of carefully get it round again. Another way, probably more common jewelers do, is to use this technique. Your file's doing that over the top of the ring, but it's also rocking sideways as well. So it's sort of that motion. And then basically you keep your file doing that, and then rotate the ring around into the file. So I don't move my file into it too much. The ring does more rotating. So basically it's flat on top of the ring and then doing that motion, so it looks like that. I tend to not really like that technique because I find it harder to control the outcome. With this, putting a flat around a corner, I can literally look at the ring from the side and look at that flat, the thickness of it, and make sure it's uniform all the way around. And then turn it around, do the same other side so they both match each other. And then you can sort of round off that bit without it going over that edge you just filed. If you just hack into it like that, I mean, some people do it very well. I mean, I can do it quite well without any issues, but I just like to have more control over the outcome. So whatever you want to do, it's a bit of a weird motion. You might want to practice it a little bit first, you haven't done it before. And after that, don't forget, paper whizzes are quite effective, especially on silver. And then I whiz it at that angle, do the top, same again at the other side, and then just make sure both sides match each other. Here's me just actually doing the job. That's what it looks like. Quite hard, strong, purposeful files. Work my way all the way around one side, and then turn the ring around, go other, looking at the side. It looks a little bit thicker there, just going to hit that a little bit more. Just want a nice parallel flat, both sides. Gently touch the top. Don't really need to do this, because the paper whizzer will do all that work. And one final check. Camera battery's running out, so I'm going to do this quickly and I'll spend the rest of the day editing. 1.12, 09, 09, 07, 09, 010. Should start to thicken up now. 12, 16, 24. What's it doing on this side? 13. A little bit thicker on this side, look. Yeah, I can see it. Anyway, right, it's almost finished. And importantly, what does it look like with the stone? Much better than before. Okay, I'm happy to proceed now. Okay, I've got to tell you about a tool which I used to use quite a lot. I don't have one here. I don't think they're expensive to buy. I don't know why I don't have one. I should probably get one. It's a ring-sized machine, yeah. We sort of roll, you put it on and then you can screw this thing up to it and then you can roll around the shank and basically squash it just by rolling around it. You can change the fitment so you can go flat against it, or you've got this D shape, just different dimensions. I used to put one on where it was just, find one that was just hitting that edge. So you're not actually changing the ring, you're not crushing it, but it's just flattening that very edge, and it gets it absolutely perfect. The dimensions go all the way around. It's like you can't just do the whole job with it because you'll stretch the ring about. So you've got to do quite a good job with the files, but just as a finishing technique, just using that machine to roll around it, it was really good. I miss having that because it's been useful. It would have been really useful for me loads lately. Okay, my stone. I should have told you this ages ago. It's 2x4, 2mm, 2mm, 4mm. We need metal. We're going to carve this up out of a solid chunk. So I've got this, we're just milling it out. I kind of knew it anyway, but yeah, basically you want to aim for, because that's 2mm wide, you want something a little bit wider, then obviously with enough length, but then also the depth as well. You want enough where it's got a little kind of bezel to sit on, and then also claws up the side and then going over the top, obviously. So it needs a bit of thickness to it. So I kind of knew it anyway. I told myself 2.5, and yeah, I milled it out 2.5 and it looks about correct. So next I will put the stone on there. Obviously not right up to the end, come back a bit, that's your setting edge. Do a decent setting edge and then a little bit more, and then it gives you sort of space for filing it back and stuff. You don't go mad. And then what I do is I just put a little mark, same distance other side. Again, play it safe, go a little bit more than you need on purpose, and you can file it back straight and stuff. So that's where I'm going to cut that off. And when I say cut it off, no, not really. All I do is I put a saw cut in it, because that's where it's going to be cut off. But we're basically carving up this collet by hand. And it's so much easier to do when you've got all this spare length to hold on to and then just work on the end. If you've just got this tiny little bit that you're trying to hold in pliers without crushing it or damaging any corners and stuff or in your fingers, very tricky, very awkward. So just leave it long. This is a good example why I normally choose bigger stones to do these full instructional guides with. It's because you can't see what I'm doing on small stones. Anyway, so that's what it looks like now, if you can see that. Again, I may as well just make a little mark so I can see the thickness. About there. We're just going to do 2 cuts and then cut down, and then it's going to be flat along the bottom. So I'll do a bit and show you. Cut straight across, try to be accurate. Cut straight across, like not that way or that way, just go straight across and then go straight down as well. I'll start it off with some quite deep ones, but basically those marks I put either side of my stone, I'm going inside those because the stone has to sit on top of this. You don't want the stone to drop in this slot we're cutting. We just need the stone to be able to sit down and have enough metal to go over the top of it. But again, there's plenty of depth there, so you may as well go down quite a lot, and then if you've got too much you can very easily file the top of the claws down. I can cut down more, but you may as well finalise it with files, and then you've got perfectly flat sides and bottom then. So as for actually getting that chunk out, you can go straight to files. I never do this, but some jewellers do. You go straight to a square file and then just do all the work with a file. I give myself a head start. I just do a majority of the work with the saw blade, so I cut down one. So cut down, keep the saw moving, and I'm turning it. Turning. As long as you keep it moving, you should be able to rotate it. And now I'm going straight across to the other one. There you go, something like that now. Just check my stone again. My stone was upside down to get the distances, now I'll just put it the right way up. I should be able to sit on top of that, there you go. Now I go to my needle files to work on that. I've got, I think I choose a Baguette, donkey back, safety back, well, whatever you call them, and a square one. Square one for the bottom, but being very careful with the sides. Don't open it up anymore. I'd probably square off my sides with this one. Doesn't cut on the sides, doesn't cut on the back. I like using those. Just putting it up to my ring, just make sure I like the look of it. I think it is a little bit overly chunky looking, but it's going in a ring, and you know, rings are on people's fingers, which mean they're picking up stuff and banging their hands into stuff, and hands in and out of pockets, gloves on and off stuff. Rings have got to be strong, more so than pendants and earrings. So perhaps a little bit overly chunky is probably a benefit. So I'm going to leave it as it is. Next step, let's don't cut it off yet. Still, we'll drill a hole in the middle, cut it out. Did it again, just doing loads of talking and the camera wasn't recording. Yeah, so I'm going to cut. Next is not to cut it off, we're going to cut a little slot down the middle. So, show you what I just did. I just drew on there the marker pen what I'm aiming for, because Baguette stones, yeah, they've got like long facets across the top and underneath. They're quite see-through compared to Brilliant Cut. Brilliant Cut basically is designed to help reflect and refract light around. When it's cut well, you shouldn't be able to see through them. Baguettes, you can always see through them, so even though it's hidden by the stone, you kind of have to do quite a neat job, so at least get nice parallel sides. And yeah, go straight through it, obviously. And then when you're cutting it out, I mean, I'll talk about this when I do it anyway, but you've got to be really careful with your saw blade not to accidentally catch the edge, your setting edges. So I start with a small ball bar. I'm gonna just put a decent dip in the middle, and then that's a little seat for my drill to sit in. Basically, when I cut up close to the setting edge, I can lean the blade back a little bit, just for like safety precaution. Two lines one side, and then cut another line down the other side, and then just cut across, just to chop a sort of piece out. I'm not a setter, so I figure out my own little ways to make things work, but I'm not a trained setter, so if you are a trained setter, you'll do a better job of this than I will. So my stone's in there, yeah? I want to see it closely. I might even take it out and just hold it to the side. Again, with my 2x watchmaker's loop. Looking at it closely. Just comparing, yeah, just pick the stone up. So halfway down is too high. So about a third up from the bottom is where I want to cut my little groove. So I take my knife, just in the side of it, where I think the stone will sit best. I'm just going to put a little nick there. I mean, that's probably good. If you're good with gravers, it's probably a good tool to just slice across it if you can do it. I haven't got graver skills, so I never practice using them. So I'm going to put the cut, I'm going to use a thin saw blade. I'll get my thinnest saw blade, just cut across it, and perhaps I can sharpen it up with that afterwards if I need to. And then what I'm going to do is cut into one side. The stone hopefully will go in there and then click in enough for the other side to drop down and then line up with the slot I just put for the girdle. So I've got my little cut in there. I tried to open it up with a file, it wasn't very good. I've got a graver here, it's probably the correct tool for the job if you ask a setter. Okay, I give up trying to do it nicely. I've got a thin cylinder burr, I'm just going to cut into the side. So I'm adjusting it above, adjusting it below, making it longer, the stone won't drop down. Okay, 100% of my setting experience goes like this. This is why I don't enjoy it, yeah? And like, people tell me I'd be good at it, I just got to use this tool and do this and do that, but I don't enjoy it. This is my experience, yeah? I make the mount correct for the stone, I cut some metal away, so the stone will sit in there, it won't go in. So I cut a bit more out, it won't go in. Cutting some more out the other side, won't go in. Okay, that tool's not working. Change to the graver. Grave out some metal, both sides, still doesn't go in. Do a bit more, still doesn't go in. Okay, I give up on those tools. I'm just going to use my cylinder phrase it right out. So it's definitely going to go in, still doesn't go in. Both sides won't go in. Just doing more and more and more. And I'm looking at it through 10 times magnification. I can see where the stone's hitting. I remove that metal, stone doesn't go in. It just goes on and on and on like this. And I just feel like I'm wasting so much time. So I would 100% rather just give my setting jobs to people who enjoy this kind of work, because I really don't. It never goes well for me. Okay, I spent loads more time working on it. I've taken them apart a little bit. I've raised the gap I've got under the claw. It's got a little bit higher, and now I'm extending, still wouldn't go in, so now I'm extending the bottom hole a bit longer. I think that might be the last thing I need to do to get this stone in. Because I think like the under the stone is hitting the metal. Oh, no. Oh, it's dropping down a little bit more. Okay, I got the stone in. The trick was to get a 10 times loop. Trick was to dig out the hole longer, so the end of the stone had somewhere to go, and then I raised up that edge that was going to go on top of the stone. I just raised that up a little bit as well. Yeah, just had to discover that basically, so I was doing all the wrong things trying to get the stone in. So technically, if I do one again, I know the potential problem, so I can work faster and get it done. But anyway, that was a horrible experience as always. Anyway, that's done. Let's tidy it up a little bit, get the dimensions around the outside correct, and then we can think about how to attach it to the ring shank. Putting my stone on top, I've got quite a lot of width either side of it. I can reduce it. You can see, you probably saw in the last scene I took, I've already filed the side just to flatten them. That's just to get rid of any burrs from filing across that way, just to get it how it actually is, and then I can judge the width of it. I'm not taking measurements, I'm just doing it all by eye, so just file a bit, Put the stone on, have a close look, see how much you took off. So it's a bit of a balance, yeah. You don't, when you look down on it, you don't want to see metal either side of the stone, but at the same time you do need it a little bit wider than the stone. So I think I'm approaching where I need to be. It's not quite in there straight. Hang on. No, I can't do it with the camera right here, but I think you get the idea. Yeah, a little bit wider than the stone. That's what you're aiming for. Okay, so I've just been cutting out the slot a little bit wider, a bit longer, and just went around it with a buff stick just to flatten the sides and make them look nice. I'm just going to give it a light polish because I've got to make it look kind of nice for taking a photo to advertise the full instructional guide. But I'm not going to go mad. So basically, it's easier to polish now than it is soldered in there. I'll polish this as well. And then I've got two polished parts that can go together. Okay, a little bit of a polish just on those flats there, and then the sides of that as well. So next, quite simply, we just cut a section of that and then drop that down. So first of all, you want it. Things that are important are not having it to the side. Okay, it's going to look weird if it's sort of going straight down but then sort of off the center. So I'm thinking about the center of that ring. I'm lining up my blade across the center. I'm just looking down on it and making sure it's going straight up and down from the top to the bottom, and directly down the middle, and then that's going to be the middle. So I think about the center of the ring, go straight up through the center. Just grip that blade on. There you go, little nick there. So that's my middle. Middle. Cutting out a little square like that. Right on the edge of this, being able to drop down. So there's that bit. That slots in there, nice and tight. Oosh. Now we can cut this off. I got this little piece, you can file it up, make sure you get the ends and the setting edges all the same, so it's all nice and symmetrical. Paper disc is a good tool for papering it. Put the stone on, having one last look, make sure I like it before we solder it in. Okay, so I just adjusted it a bit more, so it went a bit lower, it was just more suitable in the ring to sit down a bit. So my shank actually comes up, it's going to go up the side of the stone a little bit. So it looks like that. So when you're putting your collet in your ring, make sure it's nice and flat that way. When you look down on it, make sure it's not turning this way or that way. Look at it from the side to make sure it's direct to the middle, it's not over one side more than the other. Yeah, you have to really sort of take your time and carefully position it. One solder done. That's one solder done. I'll let it cool down. I'll look around it. It looks pretty good. Basically, I like to do one solder when I'm positioning a collet in a shank, and then I will check around it and make sure I want to proceed. Because if I don't want to proceed, it's quite easy to unsolder it. If you've done 2 solders and then you want to unsolder it, like move it, it's much more difficult, much more risky to do. Battery's running out my camera again. I'll just show you this quickly. See that? There we go. 1 solder, 1 side. I just put that solder on that top edge, and then it can melt and then just flood down both sides. But yeah, that's what I mean by checking it out. Just looking around it, making sure I like its angles and its position and stuff. I think it's okay to continue. So I'll quickly do that other solder. My battery light's flashing. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Okay, so picking this up, I had a bit of bad luck with it last night. I was working in a rush, so my flame was a bit overly fierce. I thought, that's okay, I know what to do, I can handle it. My battery light was flashing, and it was the end of the day as well. It just all accumulated, and I pushed it a bit too hard. And what I think happened is, basically I did the job, but I had a piece of solder on there to melt, and it looks like, where is it? Oh, it's this side. Yeah, the solder come out of my join. This is where I think I got a little bit unlucky. My join wasn't under the collet, it was just on the top of the shoulder there. And it looks like solder come out of that and then flooded, mixed with the bit of solder I added, so it's just like a big blob on there. That means I've got to work on the sides and underneath quite a lot, sort of ruining the polish that I'd done on the shank, so I'm gonna have to sort of go back a step. It's just gonna be harder to polish basically after I cleaned it up. Ideally do a super neat join, and then there's very little work to do, and then you can give it a light polish and it's done. That's the ideal outcome. But as for the position and everything, quite happy with it. It's quite straight on the shanklet, equal distance either side. Either side. Yeah, just that solder was a bit of a balls up. Working in silver is troublesome like that. I'm sure in gold, even with the solder join in the same position, a lot less likely to have problems with it. You'll be pleasantly surprised when you start working in, if you're not already, if you start working in gold and platinum, it's easier to do a neater job, and these finishing moments of assembling parts together that already have solder joins in them, you don't have trouble like you do in silver. Perhaps next time I will be much more careful to make sure that join really is in the middle at the tallest part of where the shoulders meet. I just sort of took it for granted. I thought it was basically at the top, it would be alright, but no, it wasn't alright. Learn the hard way, as happens all the time in this trade. So as the late great Bob Ross used to always say, there are no mistakes, only happy little accidents. So I can turn this negative into a positive. I can give you some info on cleaning up dodgy solder joints. This is my tool that rescues me most of the time. It's like an abrasive rubber disc. I call them rubber wheels or ridgy discs. It's like hard rubber, but it's abrasive. And they're difficult to buy the correct one. For some reason, I don't know, I'm not always buying different ones. Maybe it's different now, but years ago, we found these at a trade show, basically. And there's a company called SSP Steedle, and they specialise in dentistry equipment, but they've got a lot of stuff that's useful for jewellers. Check out their website. Last time I looked, I couldn't find it on the website, but the code is, if you want exactly this, I think you have to buy them in a bag of 100. A little bit expensive, like 80 euros or something, but that 80 of these will last you for years and years. Code is 9044 if you want that from SSP. If you want literally exactly these, I can't bother to experiment with different ones. I'll just buy these again when they run out. Anyway, yeah, so you need to get a screw down mandrel, put one of these on, and then these are great for cleaning up solder. Unfortunately, from new, they're very sharp, but they're not very round, so you kind of need to sharpen them even though they're already sharp, and it's just to get it rotating, like, because you're holding it dead in the centre, but it's not perfectly round, so there's a bit of a wobble to it. Not perfectly flat, not perfectly round, so just tidy up that edge, and then you can spin it without it being all bumpy. And basically, these take a bit of practice. You want to cut the solder, but without cutting lines in your metal, ideally. A little bit tricky, but it doesn't take much practice to get good with them. Okay, a bit awkward with the camera, but that's the best angle I can give you. Yeah, I literally put optivisors on. I do this under magnification. You just want to spin it gently, just touch it on your join. As long as you keep it moving, and if you are hitting the surface, just sort of slide it up and down. horrible. It's a shame when you have to do this. I like doing super neat solder joins, and then it saves a lot of trouble. When they're very sharp, they go blunt very quickly, but they are, saying that, they are actually good at keeping sharp. It's the ones you buy from UK trade dealers. They say abrasive, but they just come apart. They instantly go blunt when you touch them on metal, so they're no good. Watch this. Put the ring on it first, then go back in here. Don't breathe in the dust, obviously. Next, I use a paper disc, a super fine grade. If you don't own a paper disc with super fine grade paper, you can simply get some super fine paper. Like, when I say that, I'm talking like 1100 grit, 1200, 1500 or more. Just glue it on the back and just cut around it, and then just pierce a hole in the middle, and then voila, you got one. It's just a disc of sandpaper at the end of the day, isn't it? You haven't really got to buy it. Just make your own. So anyway, touching the sides. So paper discs underneath it, the sides, all around the collet as well. Just want to say it's worth having a little mini paper disc for these kind of moments. I can't hit that with a paper whizzer or the disc because I'll end up touching the setting edges. Just want to keep everything really sharp. So it's nice if you've just got a mini buff stick ready to go. If not, I would just wrap that paper around a needle file. Use that, a temporary one. There you go. I just buffed all around it now. Stuffed my previous polish. It will just have to be polished after setting. So yeah, I went under it and then hit the sides. So that's why you can see those different angles there. Under that side, sides of the collet, tops, those sides. It should polish up all right. Problem is with silver, it's so soft. You've got to be so careful polishing it because all those sharp edges go blunt, and then it just looks sort of, if you polish it too hard, which is easy to do accidentally, it looks worn out on second hand before you even finished it. So with that in mind, I'm just going to go ahead and set the stone, and it'll just have a light final polish. That's all really I can do with it. Way too much metal over the stone, like on top. The setting edge is about correct, but there's just, the claws are really high. Oops. Oh, stone stained in. Okay, so that stone is secure now. Give it a wiggle. Where's my thingy? So the metal is still quite thick on there. I set it, but because the metal's a bit chunky, I can file it up and get it looking nice. Again, that's the sort of only technique I can go for, because I don't have the proper tools, and even if I did, I don't know how to use them. So do your own research when it comes to setting. Like I always say, I can get the job done, but perhaps the way I do it is very beginner. So I put the goggles on, I'm gonna touch it up with needle files and just square it off, get everything nice and straight so it all is suitable for the design. And then we can call it finished. Oh, I'll give it a light polish and then it's finished. Okay, I only spent a few minutes with the files, just flatten the top and then cut the, come on focus, cut the ends back, look. So it's quite blocky. They are a bit fat. When I take it out of this, I'll bring the ends in a little bit, but not too much, because I think the length of that does do it justice. It makes the stone look bigger, it gives it a bit more emphasis, a bit more of a nicer ring. Restrictions due to it being soft silver, so I'm polishing it with like a little mini felt disc, and then I can basically go over it, similar to what it's like going over it with a paper disc. Not quite as accurate, but I do feel like these bristle brushes, they're good for getting in nooks and crannies, but in silver, that's going to put little lines in it, and it's going to round off edges accidentally too easily. So I'm literally, with this disc, these are good because these are just like hard felt. You can literally just sharpen them. I guess it's more like going over it with a rubber wheel rather than the paper disc. But yeah, you can just sort of touch surfaces very lightly and it comes up as polished. It's very little work. And obviously I can get the details like the little tapered setting edge as well. So yeah, that's difficult silver. So I'm going to touch it up in all the difficult to reach bits with this, and then I'll go over it, a general go over with the bigger mops on the polishing motor. Okay, so here we go. I gave it a light polish. It's I had it at an angle, it was really catching the light earlier. Yeah, you can, even with a light polish, silver polishes up really easy. And silver, I think silver should have this promoted more because it's quite a special fact about it. It is the most highly reflective, like the whitest, most highly reflective metal known to man. So when it shines up, it really does glow. Yeah, I just want to highlight a few things about making this. Sort of we learned a few things as we went through the process. First of all, I just want to say a small stone in a ring doesn't have to be a tiny stone. You can exaggerate it like I've done here and leave the set-in walls extra wide, so it has more length. It gives it a bit more presence. And then, do you remember when I was milling out the shank? When it comes to having the collet, joining them together, I felt like it was too thick, so I thinned it down. So we reduced the depth and reduced the width. That helps it be less dominant over over a small stone. Another thing that can't really be helped is small finger sizes. They help small stones look bigger as well, but you've got to do what you've got to do. Yeah, apart from that, I do actually quite like that stone. I do actually like the ring in general. It's simple and it's just a nice sort of fashionable thing to wear for someone. I'm sure my child's going to see that and want it, and I'll give it to her as well.